Hi, class. This is chapter 4. It's about market research, metrics, and analytics. Now, probably you're fully aware of the reason why we do marketing research and conduct a market research is because we Uh, basically, marketing research is the core issue of any marketing plan. And the marketing plan is the core issues of any business plan. And if you don't have a business plan, then your plan for doing a business is almost doomed to fail. So you need to have a good marketing research built on a good marketing research plan, and you develop a marketing plan, and then this marketing plan will be part of your total plan, business plan, and all part of the other business plan is adjusted to the marketing plan. And your final plan, which is the business plan, is the one who is a benchmark or a guide for a successful business. So from this point, that we need to do a marketing research. And usually I teach this course, a full course only on marketing research and how to conduct a marketing research. Can be a very complicated issue too. So let's start, but in the field of marketing, we're gonna start with this chapter as startup. Now, here what we are looking for is really we are looking to learn in that how we can explain the value of market research, metrics, and analytics. We outline the different categories of metrics. We can describe the different types of data and their primary challenges, like primary data, secondary data, and all these things. We also can describe the we can describe also the method of analyzing the big data. Also, we're going to focus on differentiate between exploratories, descriptive, and casual research. We're also going to see and identify the steps by steps market research approach and list and describe the primary research tools and their advantage and disadvantage. So basically, when we want to do a marketing plan, which is will be more part of the business plan, we do a market research. And the market research is about organizing required data to evaluate its performance and to analyze its customers, competitors, products, and services. So we want to know who's our customer, who's our competition, what products we have to put in the market, and what kind of services there. So the process we do, we usually collect data, analyze them, and interpret them. Now, market research is the process of planning, collecting, and analyzing information in order to recommend action to improve the marketing activities. And also can reduce the risk, provide the manager with the insight, which is adding vision, knowledge, and experience. But before we do a market research, we build a hypothesis. And the hypothesis probably says an increase certain points in A will cause to increase certain points in B, or increase in certain points in A, assuming everything is constant, will cause decrease in certain point in B. So there is a positive correlation when the both goes up, and one goes up, one down. That's a negative correlation. These are the hypotheses that we want to prove it through doing a marketing research and collecting the data. So it's also, in a way, it eventually, so what can reduce the risk of taking decision, the consequences of taking decision, and provide the manager with insight, like extra vision that he needs, knowledge, and experience. There's something called MIS, which is Marketing Information System in the field of marketing. MIS in field of IT, Management Information System, but here it's called Marketing Information System. And it's about set of procedures and process for collecting, sorting, analyzing, and summarizing marketing information on an ongoing basis to help the manager to help manage the data. In a word, competitive advantage. You keep going to see whether you're losing market share or you're gaining market share. You want to see if you increase the price, what will happen. If you reduce the price, what happens. These are always data that you want to know. So what you have is something called metrics. Metrics is numerical data that is collected and grouped to track performance. It's looked at the dashboard as you see it here, and the dashboard visualize the data and the KPIs, which is KPIs is key performance indicators, showing we have reached the goal, halfway to the goal, or indicators, key performance indicators. So metrics is always made of relevant data, and this relevant data has to be measurable, and once we can measure it, we're able to take action, actionable. So if it's not relevant, then it's useless, everything. And if it's a relevant data, but it's not measurable, we cannot measure it, then we cannot take an action. Measures is about revenue, market share, profit margin, buzz, sentiment, engagement. These are all measurable. Response rate, is there awareness level? People, how many people have a brand loyalties, retention, for example, and brand development index or BDI. Now, market share is the percentage of sales volume for a product relative to the entire sales volume of a categories in which it competes. Say your market share for Ford car in Canada, where they're competing with other cars in Canada. So they want to see how much cars sold totally. If it's 100,000 cars sold, 20,000 of them is Ford. That 100,000 cars sold in Canada, 20,000 cars Ford were sold in Canada out of those 100. So your market share is 20%. So track over time and compare it to competitive market share levels also. So if you're selling 10% last year, this year 15, you're hoping if you're doing it right, you're going to go 20%. So also there is a track. But when it comes to the business development index, it shows how well a brand sales are developed in a region relatively to the region's population size. So in the indexing, if you say my product is being sold 10,000 units this year and 20,000 units next year, and the population moved from 1 million to 3 million, then your index is low, your BDI is low. But if it's Population moved from 1 million to 3 million, and you sold from 10,000 units to 30,000 units. That's you are matching the VDI in the market. But here is the big challenge: is the big data that we are facing. The volume of data is like a 2.5 quintillion bytes of data is created every day. 90% of the data has been created in the last 2 years. So boom, boom. And then you have the variety of the data, the structured data, unstructured data. There is images, there's a voice data, there's video data, there is email data. There are variety, there are different type of data. The challenge is the velocity of the speed of data. You notice with this corona, COVID-19, suddenly lots of data start generating compared to before corona. So the speed just jumped very high. It was going high, but constant. But with this, suddenly jumped way up. And then the veracity, the certainty of data. How much of these data we can trust them, and how much we cannot trust them. So that's another thing that you need to look when you're evaluating the big data that you have in hand. So the question for the big data will not automatically deliver the result. After all these headaches that we talked about, the difficulties of data, they will not automatically deliver a result. And it's not a substitute for creative ideas and smart thinking. So it is supporting creative ideas and smart thinking sometimes. Managing big data takes time, perseverance, and it's an insight to count. Imagine billions of data that every minute Facebook gets it. How they're managing big data present marketeers with many challenges. It can be supportive, but once you don't have a control over it, it can be big challenge. So what kind of data we have? So we are going to the first, because our first steps of marketing research is to collect data. So we want to know what kind of data we have in order for us to do the research. So the types of data, many companies find it difficult to manage the data, as we said, is because some of them are structured, some of them are unstructured, and some of them are hybrid, are there, but it's not there in your research until they start, you need them. So what you have here is you have a whole type of data, structured, non-structured, all these kind of hybrid, and put in assuming they are good data, put in the technology, and then you utilize the way you want to analyze. You put what if analysis, would you put certain question, and they all together will give you an inside information. And these inside information, once can be descriptive, and sometimes you use it for predictive things. Descriptive is once an event happened, so we'll explain to you why this event happened. Predictive is they look at the data's information that causing a trigger certain event. Increasing few levels in A will cause increasing B. But in the descriptive, you go, why B increase? Because there is an increase in A. So furthermore, descriptive, what has happened is like you check the web, who visited there, what, when. The social events. The third type is what you call RFM, which is recency, when this happened, how often or frequencies, and monetary values. These are it's a descriptive, telling you how much they are spending and when they're spending that. One of the things like a selfies can tell a researcher when and where products are used. As we said, in the predictive, what might happen in the future you're looking at, and data can be combined from your CRM, customer relationship management solution, database, your social media analytics, like a Google Analytics, your marketing programs, metrics that you have, your customer service database, and your purchase data. They all can help you to reveal a grouping of customer with a common attitude and purchase pattern. All these can tell you, for example, if you're driving some analysis that people over 60 years, when they're walking in a travel agency, they are looking for holiday packages. Something like that will help you to predict the future from previous purchases, from program, marketing program, which is they show you these people usually over 60, they have more cash to spend, or the customer database from the fact you got these information from travel agencies and purchase data when they buy usually. Then you have what you call types of marketing research. Now, after we know what kind of data we're looking at or what kind of data we're looking after, then we know what kind of a marketing research we should do and which one we should evaluate, what type of data. So the market research is something, and it's not an easy undertaking. It takes a combination of social and scientific approach and use a mathematical and econometrics approach. There's so many disciplines involved in it. And it's often require market research to answer a question that cannot be answered through regular metrics and analytics. When we asking a marketing research to do their market, is because we cannot find it on the web. We cannot get a guaranteed or certified answer. We ask the market research to do that for us. Now, we do have, as we said, different market research. It's different than the data, which we said the descriptive and predictive. Here, we're asking the market research to do some kind of an exploratories, or we can ask him to do a descriptive research or a casual research. And the first one, the preliminary research that clarifies the scope and the nature of a marketing problem or opportunity. On the second stage, which is the descriptive, is designed to describe the basic characteristics of a given population or to clarify a usage and attitude. So what kind of population is using travel vacations? Is people over 70 years old, something like a couple that over, it's a descriptive. And then the casual is designed to identify cause and effect relationship among the variable. So in the descriptive, we say people who, couples and over 60 years or 70 years, they buy tickets for holidays, vacations, holidays. But the cause and effect, we say that people who does make money more than $60,000 a year, and they are, they probably will be buying the tickets. So the cost for buying it is the income that they are generating and saving it. So there is a 6 steps, which is we will be talking about when you do a marketing research. And the first one, we need to define the problem, the issues, the opportunities. What's the opportunity we're looking for? What's the problem, or what's the problem we're looking for a solution for it? Then according to that, then we do the design, the research plan. What kind of a research plan we're gonna do? The second thing we will do after that, we'll conduct exploratories and qualitative research. It's about collecting, exploring secondary data in the market, like internet, books, library research, sources such as internal big data analytics, company reports, and external online, offline published reports. And we also collect the primary data, and these are resources such as we bring a focus group, 10, 12 people, and ask them the question in depth. We could do in-depth interviews, online communities, and these things. So this way we conduct the exploratories and qualitative research. Then once we do that, the next step we move to collect the quantitative primary data if we're not satisfied with the answer that we got. Because qualitative and the secondary data is cheaper to collect than quantitative primary research. And it's basically online and offline approach such as surveys, experiment, and observation. And then we compile and analyze and interpret this data and eventually we generate reports and recommendation. So it's, in other words, it's a systematic approach ensures that market research is done very well and thoroughly, that all the elements are considered and the results are accurate. Because if you're not considering the element, then you have marginal error you need to be collected. What's the chance of something not applicable? So on the first stage or first step, what we do, we sit and we define if we have a problem, why we're not selling up to the standards in this country, for example, or this region. Or we have an issue, we need to fix it, improve the quality of the product so we can increase the price. Or we're looking for an opportunity. So the objective of the first step is specific. We need to be specific, measurable goals that decision makers seek to achieve. So the decision makers is looking for a type of answer, not yes or no, type of answers for a certain question that they have in mind. Can I expand, for example? Then you put, can he expand? What kind of a research you need to put in order to get the answer for him, yes or no. The second step, you need to define the research plan, as we just said first, is design the research plan, identify which approach you will be taking to complete the project, what information is needed, how it will be collected, whether the sampling plan is needed. So he's asking, what can I expand? So what kind of information you're looking to give him? What kind of information he's looking? He's probably looking if there is enough market size there, enough people interested, enough people are willing to buy, what's their income level, when they're gonna buy. These are the information probably a manager needs to get an information before start digging more further. So what information is needed? How it will be collected? Are you going to make phone calls? Are you going to email? Are you going to meet people on the street? Are you going to be bringing know-how? Are you going to have interviews? How it's collected? Or are you going to find it in a website? And whether a sampling plan is needed. Do you need to select a plan, a samples, and start asking them? Or just what you have in the market data, you can collect it from the internet or from the libraries, and so that should be good enough. So the second step you do, probability of sampling or non-probability of sampling. Probability of sampling, that you have 1,000 people, 100 people, the chance of each one gets selected is 1%. The non-probability sampling, it's by luck. So maybe one person will be selected 3, 4 times, and one person never gets selected. That's non-probability sampling. So are you doing a probability sampling? It's like every 10 person you're going to select one to interview, or every bunch of people passing, you select one to interview, something like that. The third step that you need to do is conduct the exploratory and qualitative research. Qualitative and quantitative also. The preliminary research that conduct is to clarify the scope and the nature of marketing problem. So first you do sample research. The sample research, you might take a few products that you're planning to sell in another country and try to sell it, or tell them, what do you think of that for $10 or $20? That's one of sample research. So you do a small size sample research and see whether this research is applicable and will result to answers that the management is seeking. Once you do the sample, is basically you're looking at the expectation that the subsequences and more conclusive quantitative research may follow. Let me give you an example. There were 2 results from searching for salamanders' shoes came in. One says none of the majority of Africans don't wear shoes, so it's a good idea to open a factory of shoes. Another one says majority of Africans, same thing, they don't wear the shoes, so there is no market for the shoes there, and would not be a good idea to open a factory. One is saying good idea, and one saying no, good idea. So that research itself cannot drive the conclusion that we are seeking. On the step 3, in a way, when we have the information resources that we said here, that's step 3, we do information resources. And we do secondary data first because it's cheaper and easier to access. And then if it's not enough, we come and do the primary data. And if the secondary data needs a primary data, also we do it. So there's 2 options. We do secondary data, and if it's not enough, we do primary data. But sometimes the secondary data can let you know that you need a primary data must be. So the secondary data is the facts and figures already recorded prior to the project. You have them on the internet, you can download them. The government census usually have them. The Chamber of Commerce have some kind of a data. Some organization can collect that data. It's possible to get them. And there is 2 types, internal and external. Internal data is data that you collect from inside, from the big data analytics, including the legacy data that you have, the structured, unstructured data, the information founded separately, companies' documents such as sales that you have before, report, if most of your customers contacting you from this country, so you're thinking of opening some stores there. And then you have the external data. Sorry. The external data is usually from outside your organization, outside your firm, and it's like, as we said, census report that you get from the government when they do yearly census, trade association, magazine, chamber of commerce, business periodically, colleges, universities, libraries, internet-based report. These are all external secondary data. And then you have what you call a primary data. It's the fact and figures newly collected for the project. So when you send your people on the street or making phone calls or sending email, and you try to collect some special data, that's called a primary data. For example, you want to see how many left-hand pipe players in Canada, because pipe players usually are right-hand. What's the percentage of left-hand pipe players? That's a special, specific data you're looking for to find out, because maybe you are trying to promote left-handers pipe players. The observation and the experimental data, watching people, like mechanical and electronic approach, person-to-person approach. These are one time. And then you have, beside the observational and experimental data, that you have the questionnaires data, asking the people, like filling up the questions or something like that, which is in-depth interview and focus group. You bring people, you ask them, or on the street, you tell them, ask them questions. Can be conducted in a person, or can be by mail, or telephone, or sending via emails. Now we're still in the step 3, which is most important, which is we do online research communities. We also online research bulletin board. We also do a social listing. Pizza Hut uses social listing to make product strategy decision. Social listing, they will set questions to some groups. Is it enough cheesy, the pizza, or not? Is it warm? What thing? That's things the social listing they're using there. Now then, you move to the 4th step, which is collect the quantitative primary research. So we said that you start with the qualitative, and if it's necessary, you start collecting certain data that you cannot find it in the market or not able to purchase it, and you start collecting your own quantitative primary research. And that can be done through observational research. So you go out and start observing people, observing the behavior, or it can be done through a survey and questionnaires, as you see it in the mall when you walk in, or you put them in a lab and experiment them. Put the people in the lab and give them some kind of cookies, 2 kinds of cookies that he doesn't know which one, and let him choose between them which one is more tastier, for example, or more sweeter or more lemonish. So these are kind of an experimental ones. So quantitative research, when we do quantitative research, we said there is different techniques for it. So let's compare the different techniques. The first one we said is you do an observational research. It's like example, like a home scan. You do Google Analytics. It's observing. Personal observation of consumer interaction and social listing. And the advantage of that is can be reflect actual behavior of people, highly accurate when you collect it by machines, not by people who register, they might be making mistakes. Mechanical observation reduce the interviewer bias. So maybe the interview has some kind of a bias, or the people getting interviewed, they have some kind of bias which could mislead you. And the appropriate when they respond cannot clearly articulate their opinions. But the disadvantage of it is do not indicate why consumers behave as they are. So why on certain time of the day, I'm buying more of this product. There is certain behavior, there's certain things causing me to behave that way. It's not explained through the observational research. And also do not provide the data on the attitude, internal information and opinion. That's mostly can be explored by interviews. And there is a different researcher might interpret different behavior differently. So we noticed lots of people buying at 12 o'clock. One say, okay, this is because people are free at 12. The other says, no, because people just got paid salaries at 12. Same thing with the Africa, when the person went and saw an 80% not wearing shoes, and another person also saw 80% not wearing shoes. One comes interpret that, oh, there is, you can open a factory for shoes. The other says, no demand for shoes. So the interpretation for him. And may require further explanation. So you see a behavior, but you need more explanation why this is happening. And ethical question exists around the privacy because you're watching people and there is an ethical issues in it. Then you have what you can do a qualitative research, comparing techniques by doing a survey or questionnaires. This is an example like personal interviews, central location interviews, such as in mall, you do in mall, you interview people, or you ask them to come to your company to interview them for some kind of surveys, or you mail the questionnaires. Maybe you make the telephone asking these question interviews over the phone, and you have an internet survey, and each one has certain restrictions to do it successfully and not to be biased. The advantage of all these, which is the survey questionnaires, is can ask numerous questions, more than 10 questions. When the interviews, you can ask 3-4 questions, otherwise the person start looking away to go away. Questions are standardized, very similar. Question can be administered via mail, telephone, internet, or in person. Person interviewers can often probe for more in-depth answers. So you ask a question, if it's yes, then it tells you ask this question. If it's no, then tell them ask this question, and it gets more deeper. And the disadvantage overall is result can be biased by the way you do the methodology, as we said, and result can be influenced by interviewers, personality of interviewers. Are they positive reinforcer, negative or non-reinforcers? And can be very expensive when you're hiring people, ask them to go to the mall and ask people. Now, the advantage and disadvantage of survey techniques is continue here when we talk about personal interview. And in the personal interview, as we said, can be probed for detailed response, yes or no, and then more question if it's no, more question if it's yes. And could be maybe, and more question if it's maybe. Can demonstrate marketing programs, can result in a high level of accuracy. Excuse me. The disadvantage, as we said, is a time-consuming, costly, very expensive, sending people to ask these questions, especially if they are professional in this job. Interviewers can be biased response. Maybe you tell them if you answer these, you're gonna get a gift or win something, so they feel that if they keep saying yes, 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 they have a better chance to win something. Or they keep saying no, 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 they have a better chance to bargain on something. So these can be a biased response. In the telephone surveys, as we said, the advantages can be conducted quickly and cheaply. Computerized technique allow for randomized calling and random calls, so non-probability sampling. And appropriate when data is needed quickly. But the bad side of it is people are reluctant to participate. You're calling somebody, you ask them some personal information, they wouldn't answer you on the phone. So there is a very low response rate. Call display features, screen out calls, do not call list, increasing the number of people with no home number, so they have only mobile. Interview are limited only to 5 to 10 minutes because you're on the phone. You don't want to keep these guys answering your free cost on you and costing on them more than the 5 to 10 minutes. And once again, interviewers can be biased response. So it says yes to everything just to get rid of you. Could be like that. And there's a questionable representatives of samples. Who they are answering the phones behind these. And in the mail survey, the advantage, there's no interviewer's bias because you're sending a mail. Useful for the national surveys usually because what everybody covering. If used in panel, can be tracked changes over time, and can be affordable if a part of the syndicate or audience survey. The disadvantage is the lengthy time that it takes. You have to mail it, wait for the mail, come back, collect the data, open the mail, collect the data, sort the data. That's take too long. When you're mailing, usually 100, 4 or 5 of them respond to you, to your email, to your mail. Same thing with email, by the way. It's a questionable data accuracy because you don't know who's answering these questions. Could be the father, the son, the daughter. I don't know, somebody, the neighbors taking their mail and answering it. And in ability to prove the response. If they say yes or no, it's very difficult to get deeper with their questions. The other one is what you could do, most of people start doing it, is the internet survey. Once again, internet survey is just like a mail, no interview bias there. Can be conducted quickly and cheaply. There's lots of now applications that you use for doing the survey, like a MailChimp, I think, that they can send questionnaires, collect the answers, and send it back to you. It could be really efficient for electronic data collections. High internet penetration can lead to some good sampling. So if you send to 100,000 people, you have 50,000 people answering. It's good sampling. Can easily target consumer database used for the national surveys. Is if you're using a panel, can track the change over the time also. So here today you have 50% people said yes to this. Yesterday you had 20%, and tomorrow you might have 70%. So you can track them. And can be affordable if a part of syndicate or anonymous surveys. You know, the difficulties here, difficult to verify the response identity once again, just like mail. Questionable data accuracy due to the mostly anonymities. You don't know who the person is answering. If you put the names, they might not answering at all. Inability to probe some response. So what if there is no other deeper questions? Might be, but not deep enough. And some debate over the sample representatives, the people who's answering you, usually people who knows the internet better and like to use the internet more than others. So you are kind of, for some stuff, you're biased there. One of the other things that you can do is the experiment. And in experiment, we said you put people in the lab, we just like you put the table in front of them to kind of cookies and ask them which one tastes better, which one is more lemonish, or which one is sweeter. These are the experiment in the lab, you put them or separate. It is examples as a test market, give them and test them and get the report in the mall. If you walk in a Walmart or basically in other big stores, you'll find people who ask you to taste this and give their feedback. It can be a simulated test market and can be a lab experiment, as we said. The advantage of it is the research can be changed key variable and measure the result in a control setting. So you give them two cookies, which one more saltier? He says this one. Then you ask me, is it salty enough? Says, not sure. Then you put another saltier cookie. Is it saltier? Yeah, but not 100 good enough. Until one by one increases and says that's a really salty, so you know which cookie are more fats and which is really salty. For example, so research can be changed key variables and measure the result in control setting. Can avoid costly failure by allowing marketeers to modify the marketing programming prior to full launch. Is set up in a way that all other variables are stable, and you're comparing A to B or A with various of B, C, and D, something like that. So the other various is stable. Marketer cannot change the other various and can provide a more accurate reflection and predict of consumer behavior, since the people are behaving more naturally. You put them in a natural situation and you test them. Once again, the disadvantage can be very expensive and time consuming because, you might have in the lab come in, pay them to do this. The result can be difficult to interpret sometimes, and actual test market may be visible to competition because they see you. And these people go out and might be asked by competition what kind of question we were asked, what kind of goods they were giving you to test. So these are all observable and can be leaked. And difficult to find a representative sample sometimes. Difficult to find 10,000 people to test your cookies out of the 10 million. Once you're done with the research, and you're aware of shortcoming of each type of research and you avoid it, not to make that mistake, then you come up with the research. Now you have a data and you start compiling these data and analyzing it and then interpreting them. Once you can interpret them, then these data can be interpreted. Part of it is that of the data becomes an information, which is in the next step, what you do, you generate a report, and from that report, you drive or write a recommendation, what you're supposed to do. So these are the steps you need to do in a marketing research in order to come up with a marketing conclusion, in order to build your marketing plan, in order to build your business plan, in order to have a successful business venture. But the future of market research sees a continued growth in online market research approach, as well as the increased use of analytical performance to help the manager big data and obtain an insight. It's easier to utilize the internet, find out what's the growth of population, what is under 30 years old, what is more than for 30 years, the income, the growth of income, the habits of people traveling or not, family-oriented, unit-oriented, all these information that you can dig it from the internet. But on other hand, if everybody is allowed easy to do research, then lots of information, personal information, it gets out, and you don't want to violate personal information. So legal authority, governments, they put some rules and regulations for that. So really, there is an ethically and legally privacy should be on the top of mind controlling these. And one of them is called in Canada Pipedia or Pipedia, and it's about Personal Information Protection and Electronic Document Act, which is the receiver is not allowed to pass it to anybody without your consent. The second one called Canada Anti-Spam Logistic, which is you can figure out and find out what details more about it. So you cannot send million email to people. This is a spam. And then you have the CMA, which is the Canadian Marketing Association. You have something do not call list or DNCL. And you have the Privacy Commission of Canada, and you got MARIA, which is Marketing Research and Intelligence Association. So this is the end of the chapter. I'll see you guys.